Hey, it's Josh Jacobs, and you're listening to Fantasy Football Counseling.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. Today we're talking about running back must-haves. One of my favorite episodes. These are running backs, well, you must have them. On the show here, we've got Mr. Tom Santanello. What's going on, Tom?
Good morning, Joe.
I'm excited to have you on.
Yeah, feelings almost mutual.
And almost mutual. And you guys know the show. It's called Fire and Ice. And we've got a little bit of battling to do because I've got a bunch of running backs that I must have, and he's got a bunch that he must have. And we're going to be butting some heads here because some of the ones that he has, I don't really agree with. So, Tom, do you want to start off with maybe your running back? First of all, how you doing, man? Anything we need to catch up on with you? It's been a week.
It has been a week. Same old story. It's getting hot down here. 90 degrees feels like it's 100.
Yeah. You're in Florida. He's in Florida for all you guys that don't know.
Another summer of misery. So getting ready for football season. Camp is supposed to be coming soon. I don't know if there's going to be any issues with the money like they had in baseball. It could happen, but they don't seem too concerned about that now, but it could pop up, but it should be fine. So just getting ready for training camp.
So I just read like a lot of things are opening up. Baseball's opening up. This is a really good sign for football because everyone questioning football, we get to beta test it with other sports and see how they do. So I'm excited that everything is opening up. We need sports in our life. We need this, man. It's an adrenaline rush for me.
Well, they've been beta testing it with soccer overseas. That's what they've been studying because it's the best comp, except the players don't get as close together. So that's the studies they've been doing and how they're basing it upon for the NFL season. The soccer that's been going on in Europe, but I don't know if it's been going on for over a month now, some of the leagues out there. So that's what they've been really going, but they're definitely going to keep an eye on the NBA. They're going to keep an eye on baseball. As far as, UFC has been going on, but that's different because there's only 5 real fights,
right?
Other undercards. So the problem with football is they're talking about increasing the practice squads from 12 to 16 players, and they just increased it from 10 to 12. So, years ago it used to be 8. So by doing that, I think they're concerned that some players are going to get it and have to sit out a week or so. And that's important because they're going to have guys on the practice squad that'll be ready to go isolated from the rest of the team. But now if you put 16 guys on the practice squad, it's going to be allowing more, other guys to get opportunities in the league. If Ezekiel Elliott, he's already tested positive, and I still think there's inconclusive evidence on if you can get it again, the virus. But that's just what they're going through now, how to prepare for that. So there's no way they're not going to plan to have a season. God forbid. I think they're worried if 10 players test positive at once, what do they do? That's what they're worried about. So
right.
That's the update on that.
Well, we won't spend too much time on that. I can't believe baseball's still going to have 60 games, man. Those guys don't give it up. Baseball, I think, is a dying sport. I know there's a lot of people that watch it, but I think the pace of the game is a lot slower for, this day and age now with all the social media platforms and quick bite-sized information. It's too slow. Back in the day, in the 40s and 50s, you got nothing better to do. You go and watch a full game.
They didn't watch TV. It was radio back then. But the baseball playoffs were very exciting this year with the Nationals winning it. I thought it was exciting this year. The playoffs, but the season's long. You're right about that. I agree. Even the NBA, nobody likes the season anymore. The playoffs are where it's at. But I think these new shorter seasons and tournament style stuff could entice more excitement, like a March Madness style. People love March Madness, so we'll see what happens. As far as running backs go, you and I have a mutual interest in Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, before we get into that, though, we're going to be talking about this. One quick plug here. Get the 60-round draft solution, guys. There's a link here below. Game changer. I'm going to help you guys crush your leagues, like having me at the draft with you. There's a link below, or head on over to thefantasyfootballcounselor.com. 16 rounds, first ever and only video training. Scrap the draft kits is the game changer. And, of course, follow Fan to Fan Network, guys. We're launching this thing in July. We're going to be broadcasting in August, but the website's going to be up in July. FTFN on Twitch. Very important you guys follow, and Fan to Fan Network on Instagram. All right, you just said Saquon Barkley. Both of us love this guy. He is a must-have, right? You love him?
I think it's a great situation for him. I see, Jason Garrett's controlling the offense there. So I personally think he's going to be the offense. They don't have many good wide receivers. They have average wide receivers at best. They have a young quarterback. The offense is going to revolve around him. Jason Garrett, I don't know how he's going to fare. I mean, listen, it's such a relief to have head coaching duties, like, just like a weight off your shoulder. Now he can just focus on the offense, which he's had success at times. But I think even if they're not successful as a team, the Giants, I think Saquon Barkley will be the team. I'm not saying he's a one-man show, but he's going to be the closest thing to it that any other team can have. And I think he's a stud at that. Even if he only gets 1,000, 1,100 yards, he could easily get, a lot of receptions and just be a focal point touch. He's going to be the focal point, but I think he'll have an increase over last year as well.
100%. I mean, we played 13 games, and they beefed up that O-line. So it's a no-brainer to me that they only improved. And Daniel Jones going into his second year now. So they have improved the O-line. Things are looking good. And he was angry last year, Tom. He was like, he wanted more. He's a competitive guy. He's got this reputation. I got to be the best running back in the league, which he arguably is the best running back in the league. He's got to perform. They drafted Andrew Thomas with the 4th pick overall. They went Matt Pert in the 3rd round. Who else did they get? They got Shane Lemieux in the 5th round. So a guard in the 5th round, offensive tackle, and another tackle, first round pick. They beefed it up. He's primed to succeed. He's got to succeed. He's got the highest ceiling, in my opinion. I love him. I must have him first overall. I got to have him, Tom.
Still risky with that old line because they're rookies, and but it is better. It is an improvement. I think sooner or later that GM is going to be gone. Joe Judge, he's an interesting coach. He's not a specialist in any area, but that's why I think it's even more important that you're looking at Jason Garrett, his success with Ezekiel Elliott, and it's going to transfer straight to Saquon Barkley.
Okay, so so is this guy you must have him in fantasy football 2020? Is the guy you must have, or not necessarily? Would you rather go Christian McCaffrey? Who's going to have the better season?
I had a pick. I would go with Barkley. I don't know. I have a good feeling about him this year.
People know how I feel. That's why I wanted you to come on here and give a different perspective. So who's going to, again, taking a decline imminent for McCaffrey, new coach, right? New quarterback. They've got Anderson there. They might throw the ball more. Given all these factors and what goes up must come down, who has a better season this year overall in rushing yards, everything? Everything.
I think it's a toss-up, and I look in Carolina at Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, young guy. I would look at him as listen, if he has a hot season, he's only 30 years old. He'll be going as the next young head coach, like those, Zach Taylor went to the Bengals. McVay went from the Redskins to the Rams. He's going to be that guy. He was at LSU last year. So look at what they did at LSU. They had Clyde Edwards last year, but they spread the ball around a lot. And Joe Brady wants to throw the ball with Bridgewater. I do know that, but right. I think it's a toss up, but if I had to lean one way, I'm going Saquon Barkley.
Higher ceiling.
I think this year.
I think so too. All right, let's go. Give me another running back must have. You must have this guy. He's going to have a great year. You love him. He's going to be rock solid.
When you're talking must have, just explain. You're talking guys.
Fantasy football. You must own him on your team. You got to draft him. This is a guy you must have on your roster.
In the top couple rounds.
Yeah, top couple. Actually, I got another guy here who's a bit of a sleeper. I must have him on my roster. No, it doesn't matter. You just have to have him on your roster. It could be late round. You got to have this guy because something good's going to happen.
Yeah, I like Ezekiel Elliott again just because I think he's a workhorse and I think he's consistent. I know you can't have both him and Barkley. That really doesn't work in fantasy. In the draft. Ezekiel is a guy that you know what you're going to get. He doesn't have a bad year. He is who he is. He's not. I don't think he'll rush for 2,000 yards or anything like that. But he's very low risk, very steady reward. And I think, if you have a pick from like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, wherever he's coming off the board, I think he's your guy over those guys in that area.
Yeah, he's coming off top 4 pretty much every time. It's usually, again, ADP consensus, but what goes up must come down. It always varies every year, but typically it's Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, typically Zeke, and then it's like Kamara. Dalvin Cook's kind of dropped down to the 8th spot now. He's kind of fading off a little bit with the holdout threat. So, yeah, I mean, you got to have Zeke. He's consistent. He's solid. He's durable. He's definitely a must-have as well. I'm going to give you one here. I must have him. I must have him. I got to have him on my roster. And people are going to get upset. That's why I brought you on because, it's David Johnson. You got to have him.
I thought the hat was giving it away, but I guess not.
No, this is that. We'll get to that in a second. We'll get to Gurley.
Nobody, everybody knows. It's no secret for you with David Johnson.
It's not okay. Listen, this isn't a man crush at all. And it's not the fact that he endorsed the brand back in 2016. We called that he had a breakout year. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with opportunity and talent, and he's angry. Listen, you got screwed by the Cardinals. And people say, how could he got screwed? He underperformed. No, he didn't underperform. He wasn't trying because he knew he was going to get shipped off. New offense. It's like a new boss coming in. He wants to, new employees. He wants to run things his way, not the old way. He wants to revamp the team. And I don't think Drake is the solution, man. Let's talk about that real quick. Let's go off on a tangent. But David Johnson, 4th round, 3rd round. His ADP is climbing. I see him coming off in the 2nd round now, late 2nd, early 3rd. His ADP is climbing because I'm talking about him. But I must have him. Great value, workhorse opportunity, talent, upside. I mean, 240 attempts for Carlos Hyde last year, 1,000 rushing yards. Carlos Hyde sucks. And you got David Johnson, who's obviously more talented. Great opportunity here, Tom. I absolutely love him. But quick tangent here. We'll get back to David Johnson. Kenyan Drake, are you sold on this guy being the workhorse? Some people are sold. They're bought in. Years to wow me, I'm not wowed. Was his lack of performance due to Miami, or was it just he's not that good? He's above par. You've seen a lot of running backs today. Football. Is he ultra elite?
No, he's not ultra elite. Usually, if a good running back, he doesn't blossom years later. And there are exceptions. If he was good, he would have got more playing time in Miami, even though it was a disastrous situation the last his 4 years there, 3.5 years. I'm sorry, but he's had a couple big games. I think the Cardinals are too much of an enigma, too much of a mystery coming in this year. They're going to throw the ball more. He's going to be an afterthought in that offense. He's definitely not a must-have, and he's going to be the workhorse by default. But I don't think a workhorse running back in that offense is worthy of being called a workhorse.
Right. You got Chase Edmunds, who came in, did well every time he touched the ball, literally. And then you've got Benjamin. They drafted him in the 7th round from Arizona State, a guy, hometown hero that they probably love and will give an opportunity to. Maybe. I'm not sold on them.
I don't buy that. I mean, you don't draft someone in the 7th round to make the team. That's the problem with that. You gotta understand that. I've been around 7th rounders. They're just, most of them get cut. So Benjamin can easily be on the practice squad. Maybe. Yeah, he's definitely a 7th rounder that has a little more chance than other late round picks. But I'm still not sold on the Cardinals.
Right. I mean, Kenyan Drake, I'm staying away, especially 2nd round. I think he's the fool's gold. He could be the Damian Williams of last year. Everyone, on top of that train. But how could you take a guy like Kenyan Drake over David Johnson? And again, that's recency bias buying into it. And again, the Consheeps is just doing their Consheeps things. All right, so let's talk about another running back. So David Johnson, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, obviously must-haves. And there's a pattern here, Tom. The pattern is this. These guys are in minimal committees, and the guys behind them won't come in and vulture a lot of volume. And I don't know if this is a guy on your list here, but Nick Chubb, in a situation where Kareem Hunt is equally, the gap isn't that big between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in regards to talent, and people are drafting Nick Chubb at the end of the 1st round. Is Nick Chubb one of your, this is what we were debating about, is he one of your must-haves? What do you think of him?
He's a guy I consider like a poor man's Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's a pure runner, 1,300 yards, 1,400 yards. He's been getting better his first couple of years in the league. I like him. I think he's going to be used like Dalvin Cook. Stefanski was the OC down there last year. Even Kerry Kubiak is the OC this year in Minnesota. And that's why I think Dalvin Cook fits that offense really, really well. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he brings to this offense. I think there's going to be enough touches to go around for Hunt to be kind of more of a weapon in on the outskirts, and Chubb is going to be the man. Yeah, I like him, especially in that division, in those tough games against those tough defenses, and where ball control is key, going against Pittsburgh, going against Baltimore. I think they're going to have a really balanced attack, and I think Stefanski knows that. And yeah, I like Chubb.
So you think he's going to top production? He's going to a lot of rushing yards, a lot of rushing touchdowns.
But Joe, I look for consistency. Like I look for, like, there's certain guys, I know you're going to bring up one in a second, that I don't like. When you're talking must have, I want to keep error out of it. I want to keep the chances of success high. I don't want a guy that's battled injuries. I don't want that. I can't have a must have guy that's injury prone. I can't have a must have guy that's had a few bad years. I want guys that are consistent, because those guys I can count on week in, week out to perform.
Right. Now, the problem is, again, I keep going back to this point. We saw a small window of these guys in fantasy, 6 out of the 8 weeks, Kareem Hunt outscoring Nick Chubb and PPR points means, obviously points per reception, catching more balls, integrating that passing game, stealing, I think, 2 receiving touchdowns away. He's going to take those points away. Those points, like a guy like Saquon would get all those points, right? A guy like Zeke making all those points, unless they bring Pollard in. But the receptions is where you're really losing it there with Chubb, and that's really going to hurt people, no matter what.
It is, but I mean, maybe you don't. I wouldn't take Chubb. I mean, if you're at the end of the first round, early second round, I like him. I also like a guy in that range, Leonard Fournette, because he's in a contract year, and I think he's a stud. He's always been a stud. He's got to stay healthy, but he's a guy, like I said, tough to count on. But I mean, I see him in a contract year. Him and Dalvin Cook, if they stay healthy, they're going to be studs. There's no doubt about it. I don't think Dalvin Cook's not. I don't think he's going to hold out. That would be a horrible decision. But Leonard Fournette is a guy. Everyone's saying Jacksonville's going to be the worst team in the NFL. I don't think so. I think Minshew's better than a lot of people think.
Yeah.
I think Jay Gruden over there, who could be the next coach over there if they struggle early in the season, take over that job. But he's going to pound the ball with Fournette, and Fournette's going to get the ball. He's going to have over 1,000 yards. And I go against what I just said with the health, so I hate to say that because he's always had a little of that stuff in his background. But he's in a contract year. He's out to prove himself, and he's one of the top running backs. He's good.
So situation from a real football perspective. So what happens here? Like they wanted to trade Fournette. He's staying on for this year. So what's his goal now? He's trying to prove to another team, hey, I'm the man, and try to get that mega contract. Is this the goal here? What's happening right now from a logistics point of view, contract point of view?
You see that in a sense, but you got to understand the way the running back market has changed over the years. Ezekiel Elliott held out earlier on. I think after his third year. Usually these first-round picks don't get the deal after the third year when they're eligible for a contract extension. But you see Dalvin Cook was a second-rounder, and he wants a new deal now going into his fourth year because they're scared because they don't pay running backs, and he's been hurt, obviously. So now go back to Fournette. I just don't think they personally, I don't know. There's something there with the GM. He can't hold on to players and stuff like that. I think Fournette wants out of there too. That was a big part of it. But Yannick Ngakoue, one of their top defensive players. But the Jaguars have been run really bad lately. So when you look back at it, you look at Fournette. All right, I was a top 10 pick, top 5 pick. I mean, he's got $20 million. He's got a lot of money, but he wants to be able to go out there and get, listen, I'm not going to say he's going to only make 4 or 5 next year, but he wants probably in that 10 to 12 range or something like that. Or obviously everyone wants more than that. So I think, yes, he's going to go out there and prove, and he's going to play through everything, and he's going to have a monster year. That's what guys do in those situations in every sport. I've seen it 100 times, 1,000 times. I mean, you got to look at it that way. That's why I tell you, Dalvin Cook contract year, I think he muscles through the injuries.
Now, if he holds out, I heard he's losing money every day he holds out or something like that in practice. What's the deal? Like, if he holds out, he's only going to hurt himself. He's not going to get paid, right?
Well, there's one big thing they changed this year. I don't know if it's like $40,000 a day or something like that in camp. He missed preseason. Yeah, there's money. That's what Melvin Gordon had last year. But this year they changed the rule where if you hold out and you don't start on time, you cannot be a free agent next year. You're going to be a restricted free agent, and they're just going to tag him with the restricted. Which he can hold out after that because he's technically a free agent and it not bother him, but then he won't be an unrestricted free agent this year and he won't be able to test the market. So it kind of defeats the purpose of holding out in a sense.
Right. So what do you think? He plays? He's not going to hold out, right? In your opinion?
I mean, listen, you'd have to be an idiot to hold out in this with the situation he's in. It would be a very bad decision.
So it's weak threats. It's false threats. He's not really going to
know if he came out and said it himself. Like you see Jamal Adams from the Jets coming out and talking a big talk and saying, I want to get traded to these 6 teams, probably the Cowboy. I mean, he's, whatever. But I don't even know if Dalvin Cook, wasn't it somebody alleged, like somebody close to him said it? I think
I'm not sure. I don't think it was him.
I don't think he's going to do it at all. And I honestly, he's better off becoming a free agent and leaving. He fits that offense perfect with Kerry Kubiak. He just fits that offense. And Kerry Kubiak, who was the head coach of the Broncos when they won the Super Bowl, has been the head coach of the Texans, has that zone running scheme. Well, he, even when he was in Denver, when he had Terrell Davis, I think back in the day, he was the guy there with John Elway and stuff like that. No, it's really, really good.
Well, we'll see how it pans out. I mean, I'm not sold. I don't think he finishes another season. He'll get hurt again. He'll just get hurt again. So all of this is pointless. All right, other running backs you must have. Who do you got? Who else do you got? We talked. So you must have Nick Chubb. You're sold on him. Zeke, I agree with Zeke. I agree with Barkley. David, do you agree with David Johnson? Let's go back there for a second.
I like him. I think he's going to have an opportunity to be the man. He's going to catch the balls. He's going to run the ball, and he's going to be their guy. Lamar Miller had 1,000 yards in that offense last year.
Or Hyde.
I'm sorry, Carlos Hyde.
Yeah. I get those guys confused too. Mediocre running backs.
Carlos Hyde. So I think they're going to have a better running back. I think they're going to get him involved in the offense more. They downgraded in the wide receiver thing. And I think Deshaun's going to take a step back from running the ball. And I think he's going to be more of a focal point and have a really good year. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Okay. Other running back must have. Do you have a couple guys left? I got a couple more.
I like Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to I'm going with consistency. This is a guy you get in the second round.
You get him. He's coming off late first, sometimes depending, but typically second round, early second round. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I can go him, Joe Mixon. I think I like those contract guys, but I like Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to have another solid year. And he's going to be a big part of that offense. I think their weapons on the outside are young. And I think Josh Jacobs is going to be a big part of that offense.
I like him too. That's another guy I must have as well. So we're agreeing on a lot aside from the Chubb thing. Another guy I must have, must. I want him so bad in fantasy this year. Todd Gurley. I think he bounces back to top form. Falcons believe in him. I think they're going to make a Super Bowl run this year. He's not going to see any stacked boxes with those type of receivers. I think he's locked and loaded, man. There's no one else there who's going to take that volume. Todd Gurley must have. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I think there's a little too much risk there for me to call him a must have. I just have never seen consistency in his game since he was in college. You see flashes of brilliance.
2017, he was solid.
Yeah, that was like fucking 10 years ago.
A couple of years ago.
That's 3. But that's what I'm saying. It's not consistent. What happened in 18, Joe? Where was he in 19?
He was okay in 18. 19, he was not utilized. The Rams didn't utilize him. They just thought that we're going to preserve this guy somehow.
But why? There's got to be a reason why. Listen, there could be the coach's fault. It could, but to me, there's too big of a risk to call him a must have. Where are you going to take him as a must have? That's another part of the must have situation.
Like a second round. That's where he's kind of going. End of second, mid to end second round. That's where he's coming off.
I would take him at the end of the second round, but it depends who else is available. I would not. I just think there's too much risk there to call him a must have. The risk is high. High too. The reward is very high. And I love the guy. I've actually known him since he was in college, and he's a great character. He's working hard right now from what I've told. And I just think there's a little bit of risk there. That's it.
Well, you're going to definitely get Fournette there. Fournette falls, I find, based on the mock drafts I've done, Fournette falls. So it sounds like you'd rather have Fournette over Gurley.
I would take him over. I would. Yeah. I think that's a tough choice, but yeah, at the end of the second round, if they're both there, that's a tough one.
I'm going Gurley. And that's why you got to go robust RB. That's why I suggest go 3 running backs at least in the first 3 rounds. That way you're covered. And then you've got, so one of these guys flops, you got, a backup there.
Second, would you take him over Joe Mixon?
Oh, yeah. I'm not sold on Joe Mixon, that offense at all. I don't know what it is, man. And that guy hasn't peaked. He's never really had like a blow up season where he's had like 300 some odd fantasy points. He always has just slightly above par average seasons. And then new suspect offense. Don't trust it. I don't trust that situation there.
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not a Joe Mixon fan at all. But he's coming off boards. Aaron Jones, another guy people love. I'm not sold on. Not touching Aaron Jones as well. Pinnacle year, AJ Dillon there. Not
1,000 yards rushing. I think
so?
Last year he did.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think he's going to decline.
That's okay. It's 62.5 yards a game. But when some guys have those large touchdown numbers, that's really distorted. And he's going in a contract year, but they haven't re-signed him. There's been talks of I talked to some people saying, I don't know if it's true or not. They said they started some discussions about an extension, but I don't think they're going to extend him. They could, but I don't think they will because they drafted their replacement.
Right.
And this kid that they drafted is a runner. He's more of like a pure Nick Chubb times 10. He can't catch he's not a receiving running back either.
No.
This isn't a guy that's going to come in and catch the ball out there. Kind of like they have in Indy with Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor. They're 2 similar running backs that both don't have. They have a third down back. I think what's his name? Hilary or something. They have in Indianapolis. They got a third down running back.
Naheem Hines.
Yeah, Hines. I said Hilary. So I don't know why I said that. And he's a guy that comes in and catches the ball. Mack and Taylor are the same friggin' player. I'm not saying who's better or worse. I'm just saying they're the same style running back. It's not like you drafted him to complement. AJ Dillon is the same style, even more of a bruiser. So he's not a guy that I don't think they can complement well. They may ease him in this year. I think he's going to take some carries away from Aaron Jones, and I would stay away from Aaron Jones.
Right. I don't trust Aaron Jones at all. And I think they throw more this year. You know, some people disagreeing with that. I think they have to.
Look at their coach. See, their coach came from Tennessee, Matt LaFleur. He's a good young mind, but I think he's trying to get his identity in the air. I do think they're trying to push Aaron Rodgers out eventually. But if Aaron Rodgers comes in and throws, 40 touchdowns and they win the Super Bowl, yeah, well, he's not going anywhere. It could be one of those situations how Brady stepped it up his last 4 years in New England, and Garoppolo, they traded him away, and that could easily happen. But it really matters on if Aaron Rodgers comes in and throws 40 touchdowns and leads them to the Super Bowl, or if they're out in the first round again. If they're going in neutral or take a step back, I can see them, next year turning it over to Jordan Love and AJ Dillon and just taking that year of the young guys. AJ Dillon's a stud running back in college. I mean, here's the thing. He has a lot of wear and tear on his body too. So you don't draft running backs for their second contract, as you know what's going on. You draft them to play. You draft them to be there. AJ Dillon already has a ton of wear and tear on his body. I don't think he's sitting the bench. I think if anything, he'll take the goal line carries away from Aaron Jones. He's that big bruising back. You know him. You've done some research.
Yeah, they got to use him. I mean, they didn't draft him for him to sit on the bench. They want to see what he's made of this year.
Take Aaron Jones.
I'm not touching him. And again, they got Dillon. They want to see what he's made of. They're going to give him the opportunity to see if he's a possible replacement for Jones.
He's a better runner. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, stay away from Jones. So, another couple must-haves. I got a couple more. I'm going to go right now and go say David Montgomery. Again, 240 attempts, 3.9 yards per carry, 3.9 yards per carry, 889 yards-ish. That's going to go up. I'm assuming as a floor, 1,000 yards, 4 point some odd yards per carry. I'm going to say 10 touchdowns on the ground. I think a solid season out of this guy. And I think, Nagy's on the hot seat. They got to run the ball more.
Yeah, they will.
And you know what? I was talking to his trainer, a guy that works with Dave Montgomery, and he said he was, disappointed with last year. Like, he wants to work on that top end speed. He never had those big breakout runs that he feels he's capable of. So he's faster, quicker, sharper. And I think Nagy knows that he has to utilize him. No more taking David Montgomery out on 3rd and 1 and running for negative yards up the middle with Tariq Cohen. I saw that happen a lot, man. It was ridiculous. I couldn't even believe what was happening being a David Montgomery fantasy owner last year. And a lot of people say, well, you drafted him early last year. I was drafting him typically at ADP. He was coming off in and around the 3rd round. That's where I got him. I packaged him with either a Saquon, Henry, Montgomery. I had Jacobs sometimes, instead of Montgomery in a lot of my leagues. But Montgomery, I think he's being slept on. Average ADP in and around rounds 4 to 5 is where he's coming off. I mean, he's almost comparable in regards to volume, talent to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs having a little bit of a better year last year. You kind of like recency bias saying Jacobs first round. But when you look at the gap between these guys, Jacobs and Montgomery, I don't see a huge gap. And you're getting Montgomery 4 rounds later. I mean, that's a value. Got to have him. Got to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think this is going to be, they have a lot to prove this year. They're all on the hot seat over there. I think Montgomery's going into his 2nd year, and I think he's going to improve. I think they're going to be more conservative. Nick Foles wins that job, and I think they're going to revolve around the short passing game and the running game. And I think he's going to have a lot of above average games. I don't think he's going to be a breakout star, but I think he's a good running back for where you can get him. I agree with you.
Rock solid. Yeah. All right. You got a couple more here, and we'll,
I have a couple guys. They're not later on. I just think in New England, Sony Michel is going to get the ball, but you can get him in the 4th round, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can get him even after that. I'm not sold on Sony Michel. I just don't like
the 4th round. If you're going with your strategy, robust running back, he's your 4th or 5th running back. You go straight running back. I just think with their team this year, that's a good gamble. And he's 1,000-yard back, and he had his little injuries last year. I know James White, but I don't think James White's going to be as much of a threat in that offense with Stidham. That was Brady's guy. If I can get him in the 4th or 5th round, that's a must-have for me. If I see him there that late, I'm going with him.
And they've got rid of that Devlin guy, James Devlin James, whatever the hell his name is. He was coming in, hoarding some touchdowns. He's no longer there. That's good. But Burkface is there. I call him Burkhead. I don't like.
They're struggling. I think Belichick's going to try to control the ball. Listen, this is a type of team that reminds me of when New England was in the early 2000s and when they had Brady. They're going to, they had Corey Dillon. I think he was there with Corey Dillon. They had some good running backs. And I'm sorry, they had some good teams, but they weren't winning big. They weren't throwing the ball like crazy. I think he's going to try to protect the lead if he gets it. And I see Sony Michel getting the ball. If he gets a lead and he's up 17-10 in the fourth quarter, guess who's getting the ball? Sony Michel. He doesn't trust Stidham enough to just get out there and sling it. So I think ball control will be Belichick's game. This isn't Tom Brady, even if they're a good team.
Right.
In any game they're leading, I see Michel getting an opportunity in the first half, and then unless they're getting bombed, then you can't run the ball and you got to throw the ball. But in the second half, if they got the lead, they're going to try to control the game, and he's going to win these close games. This is what Belichick does best. And in the fourth round, that's my guy.
See, I'd rather go someone with a high ceiling because with Sony, you've kind of seen kind of what he's done. I know it's a different offense now. I'd rather go someone like Montgomery for safety, or if you want to take a high ceiling as your fourth running back or a third running back, maybe Cam Akers, because I think the ceiling is higher there potentially. So I'd rather go with a high ceiling guy, a little bit of uncertainty, more of a boom type of player, instead of a guy that I just think will be safe, boring, has shown some injuries. Belichick, they don't have any respect for fantasy whatsoever. Sony's not on my radar at all. I can see what you're saying. I definitely see maybe the different situation.
Fourth round must have, like, if he's there, he's my
guy.
I just know that offense well. I've been following them for a long time, and I know what they're going to do under McDaniel. And I know how their offense evolves, and they're going to adapt to what they have. They have a young team. They don't have a really star-set wide receivers. They're going to revolve around just what Stidham can do, but they're not going to – I'm not saying they're going to trust Stidham in the fourth to sling it out, but like Brady earned that. In the beginning, they're going to control the game, and that's what they're going to try to do. I agree, Cam Akers, I just tough to call rookies a must-have unless you're coming up with that guy in the top 5, top 10 coming in on the draft. Cam Akers, but I think he's going to be off a round earlier than Sony Michel. But I agree with you. I do like Cam Akers there at the Rams. I think the Rams are going to spread the ball around to Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, their tight end, Tyler Higbee, they really like. They just paid. But I think they do need a running back. And I think if you can get Cam Akers in the third round, he would be a must-have for me. I don't know where you're getting him.
I like him a lot. I don't know if he's necessarily a must-have. He's kind of like one of those, he's there. I like it. I'll grab him. I kind of like him more. I like the opportunity more than DeAndre Swift. I think Swift is phenomenal based on what we've seen. But the problem with him is, man, it's going to be a committee there. And I don't know about the Lions running the ball that much. It's going to be interesting. But, what's that?
You said Swift?
Swift. Yeah, I kind of like him. I just don't know if I like him in Detroit with Kerry on and all those guys. That bothers me.
I mean, listen, you got to, until the trend is bucked, you can't really go with it. They haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher in so long. They're a passing team with Matt Stafford. So I'd stay away for now. I'd monitor that. I still like Swift later on. The thing I think you have to look at Akers, and you have to compare him to guys like James Conner, Raheem Mostert, Swift, like you said. You have to compare him to Singletary. Singletary really bothers me because they got Zach Moss, and that scares me. So I would not call him a must-have. Otherwise, I would.
I wouldn't touch him.
When you're talking to Cam Akers over Melvin Gordon, I think that's the debate you have to have.
Right.
Like in those range, the James Connors, the Cam Akers. Connor, I'm not sold on. I think he can have a decent year. I don't think he's a stud. I think he can easily have a 1,000-yard year, but he doesn't wow me. Like you said, you're not going to have that big games. And like when you were making fun of my guy, Michelle, you were talking about that. I said the same with James Conner. If he stays healthy, and he's going to be the guy over there, but there's some games he's got to stay healthy. But he's all about Pittsburgh. They love him there. He's their kind of guy. And I do think that he stays there in the long term. Unless there's another injury or something like that there. And then they give the kid from Maryland, McFarland, a shot, who they got in the fourth round as a risk reward type of player. But I agree with you in that range. Chris Carson really bothers me because that injury, I don't think he's healthy. I don't think they trust him.
And Carlos Hyde being there with Chris Carson, that bothers me. But one thing I look at when I'm looking at any guy in fantasy, I look at the depth chart, and then I look at where the team drafted him. And the fact that the Rams, now 223 attempts are going to be available at least there with Gurley being gone. That's what I think Gurley had last year with the Rams. But that was a conservative Gurley. It wasn't a full out, let's run Gurley, because you're looking at maybe at 250 attempts if they ran Gurley hard, and they didn't last year. So 223 available attempts. And Cam Akers was the first pick that they went with. Like that, they're like, we got to go running back right away.
They like him.
They like him. 52nd pick in the second round, or 52nd overall second round. So and he ran behind a bad O-line in Florida State. So I'm excited. I like the opportunity. I like the ceiling. Is he a must-have? Not necessarily, but a guy that I like. You know, you could go Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the second round, which I'm probably not going to do because I don't think the volume is going to be there.
No,
Damian Williams would be a thorn. So I like the ceiling of Akers. You get him for better value, high ceiling, and probably more volume. So he's very appealing to me. Very appealing.
You know who I like, but he's not a must-have. But I just they scare me. If the stars align, I like Miles Sanders in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I love him.
And I don't trust him. I think the kid's a stud. He was stuck behind Saquon Barkley, but there's something that scares me. They just lost Brandon Brooks. I'm sorry, for a torn Achilles. Their starting guard, who's he's a beast. And they pay well. They got Lane Johnson. They still got a good line. They lost Jason Peters, but they're replacing him. With the left tackle who I know played some last year for him. So it worries me because they're always looking at veteran running backs. I don't know, Doug Peterson. He's never really wowed me with a pure running back. They always like a lot of running backs. Howie Roseman's always taken a lot of okay running backs. I mean, besides LaShawn McCoy when he had him back in the day. But after that, they've always had a few guys that can get the job done. So it really bothers me because I think the kid is a stud.
Yeah, the thing is, they're already flirting with Freeman. They're not going to keep. They're going to bring somebody else in. It's going to annoy the heck out of me.
Yeah, I would be careful, but I think he's got a lot of. If he hits a home run, it's going to be a grand slam. Like if you draft him and he ends up winning that, and he's going to win the job. But if he ends up being that workhorse, it's not going to be a home run. It's going to be a grand slam. He's going to be.
I agree.
There,
I love him. I love him as it sits right now, June 24th. But watch them, acquire Freeman or someone like that. There's a couple of free agents, lurking around. Then look out. Okay, that's going to ruin his value, in my opinion. So another guy here to finish us off. I gotta get him. 9th, 10th round. His ADP is rising a little bit. Madison, just gotta have him on my bench because he's going to start at some point in the season. You heard it here first. And here's the thing: if Cook holds out, he's an idiot because Madison, performed just as good with the same amount of attempts as Cook. He had about 400 plus yards on 100 attempts. Cook had 250 attempts and over 1,100 yards. So he's on par. Like if you look at him, side by side, 4.6 yards per carry for Madison, 4.5 for Cook. You project that out. If you ran Madison, he'd do just as good as Cook. A product of the offense. I think Madison's even stronger than Cook. But the fact of the matter is, if Cook holds out, Madison starts. He takes that job and he runs just as well.
I agree and I disagree on one point. I agree that it's a system offense. Kerry Kubiak can plug a few guys in there and they can run through that scheme. And that's what he's done throughout the years when he's been the offensive coordinator or head coach at places. He has done that. However, where I disagree, I think Dalvin Cook's a better overall talent and he will perform at a better level over the course of a season if he stays healthy. But I do agree where Madison, if he gets that job, he's going to succeed.
He will. He's hungry. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So why not stash Madison? He will start. Now, a lot of people are saying, Joe, why don't we just draft Cook and then get Madison later? And then you're covered. I'm like, no. Draft yourself a Jacobs, draft yourself a Henry, who's also another must-have, and then get Madison. Now you've got 2 RB1s when Cook goes down, and he will again. You have my word, Tom. Cook will go down again. He will go down again, 100%. Without a doubt.
Most of last year, right?
What's that? Played 14, I think, games.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, he's in his contract year. If I have to take him or not, I take him, but it depends where. Like, there's other guys I like ahead of him. I just think the kid's going to put up stats, but he had the ACL injury had nothing to do with that. It was a different injury, but I just think I just hate it when a running back thinks they're better than what they are, and they're not bigger than the game. I've seen it. Listen, I've been through it a lot. I've seen the contracts. Melvin Gordon last year. Melvin Gordon's not as good as advertised.
Right.
Notice how we didn't say his name on this, but I agree. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so must have him later. So yeah, and then obviously Derrick Henry, workhorse running back, and I still think he hasn't hit his full stride. I think he had over 1,500 rushing yards last year. Yeah, I still think he has more in the tank. I mean, are they going to sign him to a mega contract before, the season possibly? I think he's,
Sorry to interrupt you, but they've been talking for a while. They haven't come to an agreement, and there's no reason to, in my mind, because the franchise number is only $10 million for a running back. Okay, think about Dalvin Cook and think about Derrick Henry. Dalvin Cook has another year left on his deal, right? For what? Couple mil? I don't even think so. Excuse me. I don't even think it's that much money. if the franchise right now for a running back is $10.2 million approximately. So you can have Dalvin Cook say he wants 13 million a year, not the 16 that's reported in the media. You can have him for the next 2 years for that 13 million by keeping him this year and franchising him next year. Why are you going to do a deal with him for over that and pay him now? Makes no business sense. Now think about that for Derrick Henry. He's already a free agent, signing the franchise tender for 10.2 million. If he's the best running back in the game, why are you going to pay him 15 million a year when you could get him for 10 a year on a franchise? And then next year it goes up 20% to 12 million. And then it makes no sense unless you want to sign him to a mega deal, like a 4-year, $65 million deal with a big signing bonus, and you can prorate it, but you're still going to have high cap numbers. It doesn't make sense when the franchise number is only 10.2 million. It's shrewd business, but that's what the NFL is. It's shrewd business. There's no reason to do that. Remember, the top running backs were getting what? 15 million a year.
Right.
Years ago, I don't know if you remember, Calvin Johnson set the market at like 18 million for running backs. Then it kept going. It stayed there and it went down a little bit with Julio, whatever.
Wide receiver, Calvin Megatron.
But I don't want to go too much into that. But $10 million is the franchise. If you got a guy worth 15 a year, why are you going to pay him? Right. That's the mistake the LA Rams made and why they do not have a good general manager. Because he didn't foresee the market of what it was going to be. You got to see the other guys around there. You got Le'Veon Bell, who's not going to get another big deal. And he's going to be gone out of that deal after this year, possibly. You got Ezekiel Elliott in that deal. Gurley's only making $5 million this year. He's off of that deal. So the next highest paid running backs aren't there. So these teams, I mean, there's no coercion like that, but they don't want to set the market up higher. The franchise is 10 million. So why are you going to sign him to a deal? It doesn't make sense unless maybe you say, I'm going to give him a 4-year, $48 million deal. That's 12 a year. And he's going to be like, if I'm him, I'd rather pay. But then it goes to this, Joe, how much is guaranteed? If they're guaranteeing 3 years, 36 million of that, yeah, you sign the papers. But if they're only guaranteeing 2 years, you say, F you, I'll take my chance, sign a franchise tag this year. I'll be a free agent next year and I'll get the franchise plus another 20% next year. So you got to look at how much is guaranteed. That's another big part of the deal. But if you're the Titans, you have no motivation to get a deal done. You have no, there for what?
Very, very good insight, man. I appreciate that. Listeners, if you guys aren't familiar with what's going on with the agreement, so Tom's got a lot of experience. Yeah. All right, so we wrap it up here. We talked about Saquon must-have, Christian McCaffrey. I think he's going to decline. A lot of people, it's a must-have. Zeke Elliott. We didn't talk too much about Kamara, but obviously he's what you see is what you get out of him, right?
Yeah, I don't really. It's not a big thing for me with Kamara. I'm not too much interested in him. I think he's ranked too high. I think he's got that boom or bust talent. But same with Austin Eckler. He's not as good as Kamara, but
don't trust him.
Yeah, I don't. He's not a real running back to me. So for me, with Eckler, I'd stay. I just wouldn't take him that high. With Alvin Kamara, it's a tough one because the kid's got talent, but he's better as part of a committee. And that way he can get the ball more. He can space out in the slot. He's not as good as like a Le'Veon Bell where he can do it all and be a runner. Le'Veon is a runner. Kamara can't handle the load.
Neither can Eckler. And again, Eckler's not going to have Rivers dumping the ball off to him as much. So it's a different situation with Eckler. I think Eckler peaked last year. Again, he's not a must-have. Neither is Kamara necessarily. He's always part of a committee. But, Saquon, Zeke, Henry, Fournette, Gurley, Montgomery. We talked about you like Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, all running backs must have. And you notice a pattern here. All of them, except the exception of Nick Chubb that you brought up, is not in any type of major committee. And that's it, man. That covers it. Those are the guys I must have. I love these guys. Absolutely love them. And Gurley, love these guys. That's it, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you've got a podcast. We should have brought this up at the beginning. Well, how do you find you? Tom Santinello podcast, guys. Go find him.
Started it on Apple. It's really starting during the season, but there's some bonus episodes going to have people on there during the year. It's on Apple right now.
On Apple, guys. Tom Santinello podcast. Look him up. Pure football talk. Lots of football and other sports too.
Stuff, yeah. The debacle in baseball and compared to the NFL starting with stuff like that.
Go follow him there, guys. That's it, guys. Thank you for being here. Running back must-haves 2020. Tom Santinello, always a pleasure as usual. Thanks, guys, and we are out.